Hey guys, it's Danny. Today I thought, instead of doing the orchids in bloom type of a tour thing, let's look at some Tolumnias in bloom and also give you a small update on the collection, because Tolumnias are some of those orchids which I really am very keen on collecting. And you know what? 'Tis their bloom season. For me, they do kind of have a season. They're all getting to bloom in the winter, late autumn, winter, maybe late winter as well. You'll see I do have some that only have flower spikes. Anyway, let's just get them out, look at them, make a little collection tour, because it's better than what's like going on with the other orchids that I didn't catch blooming. I mean, we do have this one, she's pretty. We also have this one, she's pretty. It's one of those cattleyas that I got at a clearance. We didn't know what it was, and this is what it is. It's amazing, but I'm gonna do a totally separate video because I missed a lot of blooms. Like, one of the blooms there is gone. This guy is done. I missed a lot of blooms. There's no point. Let's just look at the Tolumnias today, shall we? Right, so let's just start with each shelf. I'm gonna start with that one and show you what's in there, then that one, and then the lower ones, okay? Okay, let's do it. So the first Tolumnia we're going to look at, this is the Gyrock Firm Red Devil. And I've showed you this one before or in the previous video because it had one of the flower spikes in bloom, but now the other one is in bloom as well. And she's just the prettiest red Tolumnia ever. Now the light in here is a little artificial. I'm using the big light above because it's a very overcast day. So if I turn off the Barinas, you will not see anything. But it is much better than what the Barina shows. This is just a normal, you know, house LED, house spotlight. So the color rendition is pretty accurate, I would say. And yes, if it looks very red, that's because it actually is very red. It's a darker red though. It's not one of those flaming reds. And this Tolumnia I do have for a couple of years or so, I believe. She's growing in the self-watering pot. You will see my collection. Most of it is in self-watering pots, but then I ran out of them and I'm just using normal pots, and that's absolutely fine. It is a choice of how you want to grow epiphytic orchids, whatever works for you. And Tolumnias are just like any other typical epiphytic orchid. They don't require special treatment in my experience. So I grow them however is best suited for me, but there are multiple ways of growing them. And before we move on to the next Tolumnia, I will put a tutorial of caring for Tolumnias down below in the description. It's really easy, but basically it's just an epiphytic orchid, and however your other epiphytes do well, that's how this one will do well as well. Did that phrase make any sense? I'm hoping so. Next up, this is a newer Tolumnia that I purchased last year. This is Tolumnia Gyrock Flyer Ladybug. It did not bloom yet, and since it's a new Tolumnia, you can see it's not very bushy. The older growth it came with is dry, so I will have to remove it, but we do have a nice new growth here. I do see the orchid is a little set back, but we do have roots. Look at that beautiful root. One of the best things about the transparent pots is that I can actually show you the roots. But yeah, she's doing well. One thing you should know about Tolumnias is that once they get a little bit set back, they will stay set back for a little bit, for a little while. So don't be afraid if it's gonna take a couple of years for a Tolumnia to bounce back. It's normal for them. Next up here we have a first time bloomer. I got it last year as well. This is Tolumnia Gyrock Gyrock Flyer Golden Fan, and she is golden, as you can see. Really pretty color. I seem to not have as many yellow Tolumnias, and the more yellow Tolumnias I find, the better. They don't seem to be as oftenly found as the pink or red ones. And here we go again, she's in a transparent pot. She's doing very well, not as set back as the previous one, but it's just a different individual. There are instances in which one of them gets a little bit you know, more of a rougher transport, or it's just a little younger and it doesn't handle transport so well. These things happen. This one fared better and I really enjoyed the blooms. Next up, this is another Tolumnia that I got last year. It did not bloom yet, but I'm hoping maybe this fan, because it's a pretty huge fan, I'm hoping it will put out a flower spike. Let me just check real quick. No, I don't see any fans. This is Gyrock Flyer Lady in Red, so I'm presuming it's gonna be a beautiful red orchid. And I got it because I actually have a cattleya called lady in red, so I thought it would be nice to just have a Tolumnia with the same name as well. This one is potted in a self-watering pot, and it does have a nice root system, but sadly I cannot show you the root system in these pots, but she is doing very well. Next up, this is an older Tolumnia. I see here 2022 on the tag, so I guess that's when I purchased it. And this is Tolumnia Jarrac Firm Orange. I might actually have footage of this one. I'll try to find it. This one is not in bloom just yet, but you can see we have 3 flower spikes at the moment. And as far as I remember, it is a really pretty red-orange color. There are Tolumnias like the Genting Orange, I think that's the name, that are really orange, like the fruit. But this one, if my memory serves me right, is a more orange-red than orange-orange. Does that make sense? Anyway, she has 3 flower spikes. This one has a branch. I thought there were 4, and she's doing very, very well. This one I purchased in 2023, as far as the tag says. This is Jarrac Firm Carnival. I don't even remember if this one bloomed. I do see spent flower spikes, but I don't remember how it looks like. I'll try to find footage. I might not be able to find because I just don't remember it blooming. So for me, at least, this should be a first-time bloomer, or the first time that I see it. It has 3 beautiful flower spikes at the moment. Look at that, and she's doing so, so nice. She's quite a vigorous grower. There are a few Tolumnias, or in my experience, there have been a few that are just not vigorous, or I just have faulty individuals. I don't know. And when I say faulty, I mean the seedling itself maybe has some issues. There are no natural selection things happening in cultivation. These, as far as my knowledge goes, they are not reproduced through tissue culture, but rather through seeds, because they do grow very fast, and it's relatively easy, if you have the skills, to propagate these from seeds. And that's how we can explain all the variation in all of these named cultivars. Like you saw from all of the Tolumnias that I showed you so far, most of them are Jarrac Firm, Jarrac Rainbow, Jarrac, I don't know, there are a few. But then you have the cultivar name. This one is Carnival. They're all the same, or coming from the same parents. They just look different because that's how seedlings are. So yes, I do believe some of the seedlings will have some issues, and I've caught a few of them, but very, very few of them. You'll see maybe one of them today, but yeah, some I do notice are a lot more vigorous than others. Alrighty, this is one of the older Tolumnias that I have. She's been in bloom actually already, but she has new flower spikes. This is one that has a weird type of growth. It's the Tolumnia Jarrac Flyer Golden Sunset, and I know I have footage with this one. I will try to find it. The tag says 2021, but that's when I started to put the dates on the tag. I do believe I have her for like 7 years at this point. It's really old. It has been set back for a lot of years, and I do believe I also removed some growths, and yeah, she's a very bushy Tolumnia. But this one never blooms with those very, very tall flower spikes that you will see. Some of these Tolumnias have very tall flower spikes. This one has always been tinier and like weirder in growth, but that's okay. I still love it. The blooms are blooms. The blooms are blooming, so I don't mind. I do actually like more compact Tolumnias, but yeah, this is one that doesn't really act like the others, but she's still doing great. Alrighty, this is one of the more vigorous hybrids that I have. This is Tolumnia Jarrac Flyer, I think Big Bang, and I have 2 Big Bangs actually. Do I still have both of them? I don't know if I gave one away or I still have it. Anyway, this is one of them, and I have footage with this one to show you. Right now it's not open, it has flower spikes. This is one that creates pretty long flower spikes, and it's also a very vigorous grower. It looks absolutely gorgeous. There's also a bit of variety in the flowers. You'll see some just have tiny differences in the details, but again, in my suspicion, that's coming from the fact that all of these are not tissue cultured, they're not clones, they're actually seedlings. So some will look kind of the same, but not really. So all of them that look kind of the same, they all have this cultivar name, but then the other siblings look like something else, but they have the same name, just a different cultivar. That's how it is with Tolumnias, and it's absolutely fantastic because there is no such thing as an ugly Tolumnia. I haven't seen one. Have you? I think they're all absolutely gorgeous and beautiful, even if they look a little bit different between them. And the last Tolumnia on this shelf, this is super brown. Tolumnia gyrac, I don't know, something super brown. And look, we have a flower spike I did not see, and it grew against the glass, and it, you know, it's okay. Sometimes they do that. They don't shoot up. Sometimes they just grow in the glass and then they do this business. What to do? It's okay. We have this flower spike. Now, for the name, super brown, it's really not brown at all. It's more of a burgundy color. On camera, I see it looks a little bit more vibrant than it is in real life, or lighter colored, not vibrant. It is vibrant. It's a beautiful color, but it is actually more of a warm toned burgundy than brown. I certainly think I do have browner Tolumnias than this. None of them in bloom at the moment, but I do think I have. So the super brown is actually more of a deep red, and she's a very vigorous grower and more compact, I see. Although Tolumnias have done this before. They bloomed very compact for several years, and then all of a sudden, one year, they just sprouted a super long flower spike. You never know with Tolumnias. I think I will arrange a different shelf for them, a taller shelf, because some of these girls, they just don't fit in my shelf. But for now, I do like them all together in one shelf. And that's the last one from this shelf. We're gonna move on to the second Tolumnia shelf. Next up, am I overexposed? Maybe. Next up, this is my absolutely favorite Tolumnia that I have. This is Gyrac Flyer Gulls, and I'm hoping the camera gets the color right. I hope so. It is a super vibrant color. Like, I look at it and my eyes hurt a little bit. It is a very nice magenta with an orange center flower, and the orchid herself is so vigorous. Look at that. Look at the amount of roots this growth has put on. Such a vigorous orchid. And the flowers are just absolutely gorgeous. Look at that. Oh my goodness. Yes, they are so vibrant in real life. Maybe a little darker colored. This camera tends to like blow a little bit the colors. And even if I reduce exposure, you know, it doesn't work out all that great. Cameras do have limitations, and especially with these pigments, that some are really reflective on flowers. You know, they do the best they can. But yeah, oh my goodness, if you ever want to have only one Tolumnia, the Gulls, just go for the Gulls. It's so incredibly beautiful, and the color is so intense. Absolutely love it. Next, we're gonna have some new Tolumnias that don't have flowers, but yeah, collection update. I got this last year. This is Gyrac Rainbow Strawberry. So I'm expecting, you know what? I would say that the Gulls looks a little bit strawberry-ish, right? I would say a pinky red color, maybe. This, again, all of these Tolumnias that I got in this year, they need to adapt, you know, they take their time. They're putting on roots, but they're growing slow at the moment because they're recovering. Whenever I order Tolumnias, many of them just take a little bit of time to recover because they come in those little baskets that dry out so fast, and sometimes on transport, because, you know, to me, transport can even be 2 weeks. Sometimes they just dry very, very, very harshly, and they lose the older roots since, you know, there's no potting mixture. So for me, it's better that the orchids are shipped in potting mixes, but Tolumnias are typically sold in tiny baskets, and they simply do not work out with where I am and how transport is. So many of them do get set back since the roots die on transport. And they take a lot of time to bounce back, but they're strong orchids, so they do bounce back, just slowly. Next up, same story with this one. This one has a weird name. It's Gyrac Flyer number 642. KS. I don't know how this one is supposed to look like, but it's gonna be a surprise when it blooms. So again, we can see roots are growing. She's bouncing back, but the growths are tiny. Next year, she will look much better than this. It's from the same batch that I got last year. These are coming from Orchid Garden, which has the cheapest Tolumnias, like in Europe. They're €7 or something like that. Yeah, very nice. And they had a lot of variety at the time, when I purchased them. So I got a lot of them, but many of them are set back. Anyway, I should revisit the listing if I still have it, or if they still have it, and see how these guys look like. I'll try to post pictures on the screen if I find anything for these orchids. If I don't, you know, they might be new hybrids. I don't know. But yeah, these will take a little while to recover. From the same batch of last year, this is Gyrac Flyer Red Cherry. Again, red to pink. You can see many of these Tolumnias are pinky or red or magenta. It is a pretty common color for them. Not so many are yellow, so that's why I'm looking for the yellow ones. This one is doing fairly well, not as set back as the other ones. I don't see flower spikes just yet. They might, you know, they might take another year. It's okay if they lose older leaves, it's fine. But yeah, this one looks good. And I'm hoping by the end of this winter, we're gonna see a flower spike from it as well. She's definitely capable of blooming. She looks not set back. Alrighty, this is again from 2023, but it's a different batch. Yeah, some of these have been purchased later in 2023 and some earlier. So that's why some of them for me are last year and some are 2023, because somehow the parts of the year are further away. I don't know, time is a little weird for me. After COVID, everything became weird, didn't it? Right, so this one is Gyrac Flyer Leopard. I don't know if it ever bloomed. I don't see previous spikes. I don't think it ever bloomed. This one is supposed to be actually yellow with spots, and it will be the first time that it blooms for me, which is absolutely fantastic, because I don't really have too many yellow Tolumnias, and I really, really like them. So I'll keep you up to date. I'll show you when this one will bloom, and I'll post it maybe in a short or something if you're curious. But yeah, this one is doing very well. Alrighty, this is an older one. This is Tolumnia Gyrac Flyer Sahara. Do we have flower spikes yet? No, this one blooms all the time. And last year she had like a bloom after the other, and it kind of took it out of her a little bit. This growth, you can see it had 2 flower spikes here right after this one bloomed, like a month after. It was the most glorious blooming, but you can see it took a toll on that growth. That growth did not mature, or, you know, it remained tiny. This year's growth, though, looks very nice. And I don't see a flower spike just yet, but she will bloom. She always blooms. She's a very vigorous Tolumnia, but even so, you can see that sometimes they can overdo it with the blooming. And whenever that happens, either the Tolumnias get very dehydrated. I had it happen, and I have to make sure I keep up with watering. Either, you know, the growths remain tinier. It does happen sometimes. They're hybrids. Sometimes they will glitch out a little bit, and especially if they're very vigorous. But this one seems to be okay. No matter how much she blooms, you know, she's pulling through. This one is another one that I really, really enjoyed. This is Gyrac Firm Pink Lady, an older one in my collection. You can see she's doing really well. I think I have her for 2 years, this one. She's fairly, quote-unquote, newish compared to others, but not very new. And this is the second time it actually blooms for me. It bloomed last year as well. And just look how beautiful the flowers are. There is a beautiful contrast between the white in the center and the pink on the sides, and like the bleeding of the color into the white is just so beautiful. I find this one to be so classy. Pink Lady, and then I have the one lady in red. They're all ladies, apparently. It's just so pretty, very pretty. I don't think I mentioned, the Tolumnias that I personally have are not fragrant, and these hybrids, at least to my knowledge, are not known to be fragrant, but I did have some comments along the years about some of these Tolumnias, maybe not these hybrids, maybe other types, the Gentin types maybe, for which I don't have any, but yeah, somebody said there are some fragrant Tolumnias out there. I have none of them, sadly, and at least these ones that I have, they're not fragrant, but they bring me joy just with the looks. But imagine if it was fragrant. This one would smell like berries. It inspires berries to me. Next up, this is Tolumnia Fantasy. Now this is an older one, but it never actually bloomed for me. Now she looks pretty mature and not set back, so hopefully, we're gonna have some blooms. I don't know. But this one is not so willing to bloom. sometimes, you know, they do this. They just don't bloom for 5 years and then all of a sudden they just start to shower you with blooms. It can happen. So I'm keeping my hopes high. I don't even know how this one is supposed to look like. At this point, I forgot as well. I do think I have her for about 3 years at this point. Maybe it was sit back as well. I really don't know. I don't remember what happened to this one, but she looks like she's mature and in good condition now. So who knows? Surprises can happen. And the last Tolumnia on this shelf, this is another new one from last year, Jarak Flyer Mangosteen. I have no idea how this one is supposed to look like, but here she is. She's looking pretty good. I don't know why I put her in this pot. It's a lechuza pot. Maybe because I ran out of self-watering and I was like, oh, well, I'm gonna use this pot. It's a little big for this orchid and it's taking up space, but it's okay. And then I decided I'm gonna use the transparent pots. But anyway, she's doing well. She's appreciating the extra moisture, but I don't think I'm gonna have blooms this year from her. I see new growth there at the base, so maybe next year it's gonna bloom. It's one of those sit back ones, but she's looking okay. All right, next up, we don't know where the tag went for this one, but I know exactly what it is because it's my only very not vigorous Tolumnia. And one of my favorites because I had it before. This is the Jarak something Corona. It has a beautiful flower. I don't know about this one because it never bloomed and I have her for several years. But can we see? It has been sit back and growing so slow like you would not imagine. So it's funny that I lost the tag because I know it's the only, I think the only Tolumnia that I know exactly what it is because I have such a visual memory of it. Because it looks like this for so many years. Well, not really. Now it's putting on new growth, but for an entire year, it was only this fan. This fan. So yeah, very sit back Tolumnia, very not vigorous one. What to do? It's, you know, it's pulling through. I have faith in it. Tolumnias do that, but yeah. If I ever, when I start holding orchids again and ordering again, if I see a Corona, I'll get it. Because it's one of my or it used to be one of my favorites when I first got my Tolumnias, like 10 years ago, I think. One of them was the Corona, and the flower was just so beautiful, incredible. So that's why I purchased it again, but this one is not. She's not vigorous at all. So the other one that I had was, but I lost it due to severe sunburn. There's a video about that at some point in my history. But yeah, this one is not vigorous. Hoping she's gonna do better in the following year. This is another Tolumnia that I have for several years and she's not as vigorous as the others, but she's still okay. This is Jarak Firma White. We've had her in bloom, I do believe. Or was it the Carmine Snow? I don't remember because I don't see flower spikes on this one, do you? This is again one of those that is not very, very vigorous, but she's not on the verge of just giving up like the Corona. The Corona was staling. This one, at least it grows, right? So I'm not entirely sure if I ever had this one in bloom, and she's just taking her time. But again, the new growths look very nice. Maybe not blooming wise or capable of blooming, but I see new growth starting. I have faith. That's how Tolumnias are. Sometimes they do just take their time, but they bounce back. Most of the times, even if they're stalling for 3 years, they will bounce back. This is one that I got last year. This is Jarak from Spotty. I don't remember how it's supposed to look like. Never bloomed, obviously, but she's doing great. She's not stalling, but you can see the new growth is a little smaller than the previous ones. We have new growth at the base. I do see these ones that don't bloom actually put on new growth at this time of the year for me, which is great because I do think they have another season in the spring of blooming. So who knows? If I do a good job this winter, they might actually bloom again or bloom for the first time in spring. But yeah, I think this one is pretty vigorous. She seems to be doing great. This one has been in bloom for a while and I have her for a while now. Tolumnia Jarak Flyer Cardinal Bird. Now the flowers were a little bit more colorful than this. Now they're some sort of orange that I do really like, but when they first opened they're a little bit more red. Are they as red as a cardinal bird? No, which is why I'm surprised. They're more orangey than anything, but that's the name of this Tolumnia. I do enjoy how big the flowers are. Look at this. They're so big compared to our other Tolumnias. There are some Tolumnias that put on really big flowers, and the orchid, you know, can grow pretty big as well. So this one is a pretty vigorous one. Yeah, they're dry. Some of them are dry because they drink a lot of water, especially the ones that are in bloom. They're very dry. I don't know if you noticed, the ones that are not in bloom, they typically are a little bit more wet because they don't absorb as much water. But these ones, when they're in bloom, they drink a lot of water. So I have to water them, I think, today. But yeah, very beautiful and quite vigorous hybrid, this one. This one has a glorious name. I got her last year, and this is Jarak Flower Banana. So I'm pretty sure it's a yellowish type. I didn't even write like the date on this, but it's last year, I know. Do we have roots? Oh yes, we do. Look at that. We have beautiful roots here. She's growing, but she's a little set back because why not? Why wouldn't she be? She's a Tolumnia, but she's growing. This growth is pretty poor looking, but it's gonna grow better. There's nothing on this orchid that tells me it's gonna bloom soon. So maybe next year, maybe in 2 years, but I have time. I'm gonna wait. This one I have for a while. This is Jarak Firm Brown Derby. I don't even remember if it ever bloomed because I do not see past flower spikes. No, I think it was set back. This one is so dry. Oops. Yeah, it's full of roots in here, so it's super dry. Oh my goodness, I need to water. You can see it's a little shrivelly as well. Yeah, I don't know how this one looks like, but I'm guessing it's beautiful because all Tolumnias are. Never bloomed though. I don't think it's gonna bloom this year. The growths are larger than in the past, but still not large enough, I think. I don't think it's gonna bloom, but she's here and I still love her. Next up, two Tolumnias that look very similar to each other, but I think they have different names, and I have them both for a long time. Tag says 2021, but they're older than this. Let me see. Let me just... Oh no. Oh, I don't want to break roots. Hold on. Right, okay, so one of them is Red Sun. This one. Do you see they're very similar? And this one is Red Spread. I don't know. They are identical to me. And do you want to focus? Thank you, finally. And they're both very vigorous. They both bloom all the time. They're very nice. They kind of look the same as well. Oh my gosh, she's so dehydrated. I need to water this one a sap because she's full of roots and full of flowers. So yeah, I need to water her. So yeah, I don't know. I keep them both because I love them, but I think they're one and the same orchid. I just don't know if it's the Red Sun or the Red Spread. If you Google both of them, you'll see they look the same. So I don't know. Maybe they should belong in the same cultivar name. But yeah, I keep them both because I love them. All right, I found her. This is my second Big Bang, and yeah, it's just as luscious as the previous one. Tolumnias are the only orchids that I don't mind having doubles because their flowers are just so beautiful, and some of them, you know, are pretty similar. So even if you put them together side by side, they still look like different orchids to me. So I keep them both because I really, really love them. But yeah, I think by mistake at some point I got two Big Bangs and I didn't realize it. It happens sometimes, and especially with Tolumnias. I have quite a few Tolumnias, so sometimes I get them mixed up. Alrighty, this one, I think this is the second time this orchid blooms for me. She's rather new, from 2023. This is Jarak Firm Barbie. And I remember the first time it bloomed, it wasn't glorious at all. Maybe it came with a flower spike. Yeah, I think that's what happened. It came with a flower spike. And yeah, during transport and stuff, the orchid got stressed and the blooms were not pretty. I didn't like it. It looked like something else. But we do have a brand new flower spike now. And I know it seems like it's coming from the substrate, but it's actually coming from this bigger new growth here. So I'm hoping that this time it will look like it's supposed to look like, because it's a beautiful orchid. It's pink, obviously, it's Barbie. It should be that Barbie pink, so I'm really looking forward to it. The flower spike is really thick in comparison to others. I'm hoping it's not gonna be distorted. I'm hoping this orchid was just stressed when I purchased it, but we'll see. And the last Tolumnia in my collection, oldie but goldie, might be my oldest Tolumnia. This is Snow Carmine, and we've seen it a million times. But yeah, look at her. She is the Tolumnia with the thickest or widest leaves. Do we see? She looks like not a Tolumnia, pretty much. She's very vigorous, makes beautiful flower spikes. This is the one that I told you it used to bloom very compact, and then all of a sudden started to put on these enormous flower spikes. Yeah, she's capable of doing that, and I feel like this year she'll put on a super vigorous flower spike kit again, because look how thick that flower spike is. Really, really vigorous orchid, most vigorous Tolumnia in my collection. I also divided it a little bit because it got out of hand at some point, so that's why she's so tiny. I had to divide it. It did not fit anymore through the door. So yeah, there she is. This is my last Tolumnia, and that about sums up this video. Alrighty, so these have been my Tolumnia orchids. Hope you've enjoyed today's video. How are your Tolumnias doing? I cannot wait to order more because I really, really love them. But you can see, I think this shelf is not containing them anymore. I think I need a taller shelf for sure to properly see them, because now, you know, they're a little crammed in here. So yeah, Tolumnias are some of my absolute favorite orchids, and I just want to have them all pretty much, and they're so affordable. They're some of the more affordable, or the most affordable orchids on the market, because they're just so tiny. If you can get over the initial stalling and the initial, you know, wait that you have to do most of the times, then everything should be okay. They're very strong orchids. They kind of just take their time, and you have to know that. But hang on, because most of the times, the vast majority of the times, they will bounce back. Righty, so with that said, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. Hope you've enjoyed today's video, and yeah, give you some inspiration for your wish list. And with that said, I'll see you all next time. Bye!